Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Home and Away, a podcast devoted to all things in and around the world of sporting Kansas City soccer. I am Drew joined once again, as always, by my good friend Cody Welton. This week on the podcast, Sporting Kansas City was reminded yet once again that they are nowhere near the quality of the Vancouver Whitecaps, even when the Whitecaps have literally one available center back on their roster. Falling 2-0 on Saturday night in what has probably been one of their poorer performances in a while, even if it wasn't the worst scoreline we've seen from them. It looked like a team that was perhaps not mathematically eliminated from the playoffs when the game started. Certainly looked like a team that didn't have anything to play for, and certainly does not now. There was a lot of disinterested play from several players on the team. There was certainly a lack of quality in midfield. Daniel Shaloway's injury certainly seemed to have limited their abilities even further to find a way to get into attacking zones effectively. And it was generally very clear that they were not of the level of their opponent. And the result was about as appropriate as it could be. And while it was the goals that Vancouver scored were both on, sort of singular, fairly shambolic defensive errors, which has been a calling card of this club all season, it was still not as if Sporting had created the types of chances that would have offset those situations had they defended effectively. So the result was sort of as expected. We're going to dig into kind of our thoughts about where this team is with 3 games left to play. The state of the roster, we've discussed this a couple months ago about what players we thought should have earned the opportunity to stick around or had at least at that point had the opportunity to prove their case to stick around. And I think we have some new data since that time as far as their performances are concerned that have us thinking a little bit differently about how these 17 players that are out of contract or on an option year might be addressed or should be addressed, as well as those coaching those players. So we're going to discuss all of that, as well as some rumor mill news starting to come around about the chief soccer officer. I'll try to add as much color to that conversation as I can, as well as the Kansas City Current, who are a good soccer team, clinching the Shield in record time. They have to do it by percentage of games played because the NWSL has expanded so much over the last several years. But by percentage of games played, they have clinched the Shield the earliest of any team in history, and did so in a fairly defining or a fairly specific way against the Seattle Reign, who were one of the teams that had actually gotten a victory, had gotten a victory against them earlier this season. And did not allow Seattle to do the things that they did in that game to get a result, and definitely took it back to them in a way that I think was a very good adjustment by Vlatko Andonovski. So we'll talk a little bit about that. We'll talk a little bit about Premier League Live showing up in Power and Light, as well as the other news around MLS and some players that I am a big fan of that are doing very well in the league right now that I thought was fairly predictable. Lastly, obviously, we will take a look at this weekend's upcoming game, a wooden spoon 6-pointer against LA Galaxy, and kind of decide whether or not we have any optimism as to whether or not Sporting might be able to push themselves fully out of contention for that trophy by getting a result in Los Angeles. Cody, maybe we'll start at the top. There were a couple lineup surprises. Shalloway, not one of them. We knew that he was injured and was not going to be able to play. Mm-hmm. So it made sense that Eric Tommy would kind of slide into his position. But I think the surprising bit was the center back pairing. So it was Alan Montez and Ian James started this one. And I do think, at some level for Zavagnin, and for those evaluating these players for the future, it's a good opportunity to get Ian James back on the field. There's not much at this point. There's not much reason at this point not to get Ian James playing time. both for his own experience as well as to kind of see what kind of player he can become with a run of minutes, as well as Alan Montes, who is a guy you got on loan for a matter of 7 or 8 games, and you need to see whether or not you want to exercise that loan. We'll talk about my thoughts about whether or not that is a thing that I think is a good idea later. But how do you think those two performed in this game? And specifically, talk about James and his comparison to another new player that has joined this team that is 7 years older than him and with a lot more experience, and kind of the comparison between the two.
Yeah, I think it was hard to tell which was the more veteran of the two. Honestly, Ian James is built like a full-grown man, and he comports himself, I think, really well on the field. I didn't think either one of them were great, but I didn't think either one of them were terrible as well. I think that. In terms of starting those two against Vancouver, I mean, it's kind of like, why not? Like, what have you got to lose at this point? This team is not really going anywhere. It's time to sort of make determinations on these players, and I don't think that we learned anything about James that would prevent me from saying that he should be an active part of the first team roster moving forward. I think as you kind of hinted at, I think that the returns on Montez are a little bit shakier. I don't think he really did anything that impressive, and I think that overall. It's just really difficult to have big takeaways, from this team after that game, because they were terrible, honestly, in the first half, and the only reason they were semi decent in the second half was because Vancouver shut everything down. Right? I mean, Vancouver was just utterly dominant. In both phases of the game in the first half, and the only time that Sporting was able to even string decent attacks together was because Vancouver just sat back in the second half and sort of let Sporting have the ball and do what they want, and so it's between the season state and the game state for this individual game, it's kind of hard to draw big conclusions, but you have to, because this is the only time that we've seen these guys play together, Montez and James, and so you have to at least start to at least try to draw some conclusions from that pairing, and it's it's just not that impressive, right? That's kind of where I'll leave it. It's just not, it wasn't great, but it also wasn't terrible. It's just kind of okay.
I think that's the most noteworthy part of it for me when it comes to Ian James, is that he looked about of the same level as everyone else that's played center back for this team this year.
Yeah.
And he's barely 17 years old.
Yeah.
And then all these other guys that have been doing it for 6, 7 or so years, a lot of them professionally for that long, are not better than him. In some cases, worse than him.
Uh-huh.
And in some capabilities, worse than him. And it just leads me to be like, why is Ian James not playing more? Like, why are we prioritizing these other guys who are significantly more experienced and are of about the same level? Maybe some better at some things, but worse at. I mean, what I saw with James is the stuff that 17-year-olds make mistakes at, like just being a little late to react, being a little naive with positioning, being a little, just making the slightly wrong decision sometimes, which is shit that 17-year-olds playing in pro minutes do. Yeah. But then I also saw a guy who can defend 1v1, like very patiently cut out a couple transition events in the second half, playing 1v1. Also will tackle the ball off and go forward with it, will actually hit a 20-yard line-splitting pass. Like none of these were like, oh my god, like jump off the page kind of things.
I don't know. There was a pass to Shoppy, sort of a long diagonal.
Yeah, when he like sprayed him into space.
Yeah, that was kind of. I was like, oh, okay, and James, I see you.
It's the only one he hit the whole game, I guess is my point. Sure. It wasn't like there was a preponderance of these plays being made. So like we need to couch this with the saying like, okay,
he does have to play with Shoppy Suleimanov, so we can't expect too much.
Of course, but I think what is noteworthy is in comparison to an Alan Montes who should, is a TAM player by the new roster designations. I mean, I wasn't too surprised by that with his loan fee and whatnot and where he's coming from. But you would ostensibly believe that he's a TAM player if you exercise his buy option. And then you have a supplemental roster homegrown sitting next to him that basically held his own alongside. And you're like, okay, well, that's what I'm saying. It's like, by comparison, it's like, I don't think anything in this game was that great. Yeah. I don't think Ian James was that spectacular in this game. I thought he was fine, and he made some mistakes. But as a 17-year-old center back that are sort of expected, and he otherwise comported himself fairly well. And with Montes, I think I said this to you in the game, the problem with Montes is there's really nothing noteworthy about him.
He's tall.
Yeah.
That's about it.
And he looks like a baby giraffe when he's running out on the field. Like he looks awkward and just sort of, I mean, just his standard posture is like, just, it doesn't exude confidence. Let me put it that way. I think it's more just, the aesthetics of it that concern me. I don't think it's actually a problem physically. I just think the aesthetics of him are not confidence inspiring. And I also think that he is not, if he's tall and his value is in the air and you have no one who can deliver him a set piece on the field, then what is his value?
Right.
Other than that, he's just sort of a average center back. I do think the one thing that he does, and again, gets into this comparative conversation because the team is so bad, you find positives about certain players that are not necessarily maybe as positive as they would be otherwise. He does defend he defends like a defender, right? He has the pessimism gene that most defenders are supposed to have, right? Yeah. Like, you're preparing for the worst case scenario pretty much all the time, making sure that the worst case thing doesn't happen. You'll see him drop back and cut out crosses. You'll see him, like, he'll see bad things start to happen and drop into areas that allow, that sort of mitigate that bad thing from getting to the worst place possible, right? So he does have those instincts, and I wish I could be less nebulous about that, but you can just see him reading plays, recognize the bad occurring, and sort of settling into an area where he can try to do something about it, except when his fullback partner is doing nothing.
Right.
And he's forced to step up, which is just something he athletically is not very good at, and that's how the first goal happens.
Yeah.
And so, like, I don't think he's great on that play, but I also think Denbe does him zero favors.
Yep.
And so he's sort of put into a really bad situation where he has to step up. Also, I don't know who's in the central midfield is supposed to be on that side, but there's no help. Like, he's on his own.
Yeah.
And so, like, again, though, for a guy who's supposed to be a TAM center back, you expect them to do a little better than that, right? Like,
yeah. I think that his, for someone who's so large, his lack of physicality is a little bothersome to me. He's not just shouldering guys and putting them down in the dirt, like I would expect somebody maybe as big as him to do. And I think that speaks to his sort of lack of body control that you noted in terms of of how he appears like a baby giraffe. Like, I think that those two things are connected, and at his age, that's not something that's necessarily that you can expect to resolve itself. And every especially in MLS, right? In a league of the quality of MLS, every player that you sign has positives and negatives, and you're going to have to, have a system or players around them to help sort of mitigate the negatives. And when you think of the things that need to happen in order for Montez to be, I guess, a successful starting caliber center back. The caliber of players he's going to have to be surrounded by just in order for a successful team to take advantage of his pluses, I think is it's just too much. It's just too much for a player who costs that much and who really just appears to be just a pure developmental prospect at this point.
Well, and it sort of highlights why he has sort of fallen out of favor at Necaxa. Sure. And why, there have been coaches that have decided to bench him, right? There's, and I think the point that you're making is really, really more like, do we sign this guy and build a defense around him? Like that's weird. And that's point, a weird choice to make with a guy like this, right?
And it would even have to be
this
more
isn't
like
Miles Robinson or something, right?
Right.
Like
right.
This isn't like Cincinnati signing Miles Robinson to a DP deal and saying he's the anchor of our defense and we're building it around him. This is like a guy with significant limitations that you then now have to design an entire roster around in order to make him good.
Yeah.
And that's what you do with DPs, not with not with 24-year-old sort of mid-tam level guys. You don't like that. Those aren't the types of decisions you want to be making. So I'm not trying to get ahead of ourselves with the who should stay and who should go situation, but I think you can kind of hear where our heads are at on a player like this. And you're right. It sucks. We don't have a large sample size with him, but this was always going to be the case when he came in on loan.
100%.
He was not going to get a ton of minutes. And you were going to have to figure it out. And the returns so far are not of one that you're like, man, I got to have this guy.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I just wanted to speak very quickly to the minutes things for Ian James. Like, I am okay with the amount of minutes that he's gotten this season. I think that, sort of developmentally, it's been handled appropriately by the club. I mean, he is 17 years old, and 17-year-old center backs don't start in any league. They just don't. And so I think that, bringing him along slowly, getting him some more quality starts maybe towards the end of the year is probably the right way to handle it. And I think that he has demonstrated, I don't know that I would call it like a strong, like linear progression, but he hasn't, to my eye, he hasn't backtracked at all. Like his development seems to be sort of on par with what you should expect by someone who is that age. But I think that your optimism about his future, I think, is really well warranted. I mean, again, he is 17, and you don't see 17-year-olds who look like that and play like that very often in MLS or, frankly, in any other league that we watch on a regular basis.
Right. I mean, yeah. And you're alluding to the fact that I've been pretty high on this kid for a couple of years.
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's a reason why. And I think that, he's probably going to start a number of games at the U17 World Cup. Like he is, in his age group, he is one of the best center backs, if not the best center back in his age group in the United States. And so it's good to see him get to play. I don't know that if this team was really good, I don't know that he would be getting these minutes. So I think that it is good to see that happening. And it is, and to your point, they're not overdoing it. They're not saying, here, play 1,000 minutes because our team sucks and we want to get you developed. They're doing it in the right way. But I think Kerry is also rewarding him for going out and looking good, right? Yeah. And giving him more minutes. And I think that it's not a situation where like Jansen Miller feels like he's being overlooked or anything like that. And to be fair, I like Jansen Miller.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's the future of starting center back for this team.
No, perhaps not. I mean, but he could easily be a depth option, right? And he's a known quantity right now, and he's not terrible.
I want to be clear. He is not going to be one of the players of the 17 that I'm like saying they need to move on from him. What I am saying is that it's okay to deprioritize Jansen Miller for a couple games at the end of the season to give Ian James time.
And it looks like he's just he that's being done with the expectation and the communication to Miller that he's going to come on the second half, and that's kind of the way that that's really how it feels.
He came on pretty late in this one,
right?
And it was for Montez, which was interesting. But yeah,
but it really feels like it's like, okay, we know what you are, Jansen. We're gonna give these other two guys a start so we can assess for next year. You're already on track for next year. That's kind of the way it feels, and maybe who knows, we could be completely wrong, but that's the way it feels, and Miller seems to be adapting to that pretty well. So let's just hope that it's Ian James and Jansen Miller, and then we'll hope that they can sign some other starting caliber.
Robbie Volador didn't even make the bench in this game.
Yeah, that's a little bit concerning, and
concerning or telling. I think
Sure.
I don't know if it's concerning per se. It's just more telling as to where they think he is.
Yeah, I meant from his perspective more than anything, right? But I don't think that it's a surprise to any of us, and I don't think that anyone would be surprised if he wasn't coming back.
No, among many other players.
Right,
when we're gonna get to that.
This is a team that's so bad that literally, if you're not already under contract, maybe don't be surprised.
Well, and yeah, that brings the larger point. You and I watched this game together, and we both said it's like, afterward, we're just like, this team is just really bad. They're just bad. And we saw one of the worst of the bads against Vancouver. Like, there was just not a very good. There was nothing really positive about that performance. I think I have it in the notes here. It's like, did anyone have a good game other than Vancouver? I think that. So it's difficult, right, to like come away from a match like that and with recency bias and all that and go, man, I'm really fired up about this guy returning. So there is some of that that is going to color our analysis of this team, but also this team's been bad for a while, and I think what's clear is the difference in depth of quality between Sporting Kansas City and other teams in the league, I think I said this to you after the game, was like, there are very few guys I can point to on this roster and say, I know that guy's good.
Right.
And
no, there are like two guys.
Well, two that I'm positive of. Well,
2.5.
Shallowy deserves to be in that conversation. I don't know. Okay. He's not a DP, but he's a good player. And Cameron did a pretty good job of sort of highlighting that when we had this conversation on the Discord. He is, by the numbers, one of the best wingers in the league over the last 5 years. So, true. You got to be a little careful. I understand it's hard to look at when he's got like 9 goal contributions this year. This team is so bad. The fact that he's still able to he's probably going to hit 9 double-digit goal contributions and have literally no rapport on the left side with anyone while doing it is actually pretty positive in my opinion.
This game was an example of how the eye test is telling sometimes, and you could definitely tell that Shallowy was not on the field because they had nothing. Like, there was nothing going on. There was no
Manu and no Shallowy, right? I think that was the thing. Yeah. It's like the only of the three good players that we're pretty confident are good, only one of them was on the field, and it was very clear.
Yeah,
he can't pass the ball to himself, so.
He might be able to. He seems pretty talented. He might have to, unless they can get some better players to help him out. But no Shallowy means a lot was on the shoulders of Santi Munoz. He didn't have a good game. Shapi Sulamanov had a typical Shapi Sulamanov game, which is to say it's not a very good game. And Dejan Joveljic, he was absent because he didn't get the ball. Like, I mean, it's really, it's pretty striking that the lack of ball progression, the lack of passes into the final third, the lack of touches in the final third and in the box, especially in the first half. It was just a grim outing.
It looked like one of those. It looked like one of those Peter Vermees games from the first part of the season.
Sure, it did. Absolutely. They looked helpless against a really depleted Vancouver team, who is a good team, but again.
But it's Daniel Rios,
right.
not Brian White and Tomas Muller. Right,
right,
Ali Ahmed
exactly.
was playing left wing for this team.
Yep.
They had Matias Laborda playing center back.
Yep.
Like, come on.
And they were on the road, right?
Yeah.
And Sporting Kansas City, couldn't even crack, one XG. I mean, it was like I said, it was grim. And the second half, I think, flattered them a lot because of the game state. But it was just as bad in terms of the actual result. And so yeah, I mean, like, a bad team is bad. They are who we thought they were, and that's just the way that they are. And it makes it really difficult to watch, and it makes it difficult to cheer for them, just as a team on the field. But
did you count Jovelic's touches in this game?
I did not know. What were they?
18.
That's not good.
18. FootMob will highlight this for you by saying Dejan Joveljic had the least touches of any outfield player to play 90 minutes.
Yeah, that's Jokeres territory. That's pretty.
It is.
It's rough. It's not what you want.
At least you made me laugh about it.
Okay,
I'll take
anytime
that.
I can.
I know there are Arsenal fans that listen to this pod, and
that is their problem. That's not my problem. If you root for that shit club, that is on you.
Oh man. So yeah, Amanda Garcia, by the way, had 34 touches in 25 minutes.
We got whiplash when he came on. It was like, oh, holy shit, a good player, a player who can turn under pressure, a player who actually is like trying to progress the ball and seeing the field and playing with speed and playing, with intent. Like it was so jarring when he got on the field, and it's just so it's so instructive of the drastic overhaul that needs to happen to this roster, because he should not be an aberration. That should be the baseline.
You expect him to be better, but not that much.
Right.
Like the difference. And so you mentioned this to me during the game, just the significant difference in center midfield quality between the two teams. That was kind of the most noteworthy thing, right? Vancouver did have Berhalter and Kubas out there, and Sporting Kansas City had Basong and Davis, and just the chasm between those two midfields for whatever it was, 65 minutes.
Yep.
It was significant. And I got to be honest, Basong had one of the worst games I've seen from him in a while.
It was terrible.
Davis at least had some positive things happening in the attacking part of the field in the second half. But it wasn't like he was great either.
Right. And it's not enough to compensate for just the lack of everything else, right? I mean, part of the idea behind going with that double pivot of those two players specifically is that they raise the floor, and they've been the most consistent performers in those roles on the entire team going back to last year, and they just for whatever reason, they just didn't have it. And I think that a big part of that reason was the fact that they just were going against a much better squad, and two players who, in their sort of mirror roles, are clearly, a step ahead.
Right. You see why Berhalter gets called into the national team, even if he's, probably about sixth or seventh realistically on the list of the depth chart of central midfielders for that team. You see why he actually gets looks for that team.
Yep.
And Kubas, obviously, I know you're a very, very big fan of his, and he played very well in this game. It was just very clear the difference in quality, and like you said, as soon as Manu gets on the field, all of a sudden the ball starts moving with a quickness and a pace that just they were not able to achieve prior to him being on the field. I remember right after Toy goes off with a concussion, they had the drop ball, and you just saw how quickly the drop ball and then immediately sprayed out directly on somebody's foot and were going vertical. And this is not necessarily a technical skill thing. This is a playing. Your brain processes the game at a higher rate thing. And you now, granted, you have to have the skill to play as fast as he does, but also it's more about having an awareness of where your teammates are, where the spaces are, seeing them ahead of time, anticipating those spaces, and then taking advantage of them. And Sporting just has too many guys who are reacting to things, and not enough guys who are anticipating things and taking it, like anticipating gaps and trying to play into them. And I got to be honest. I know we're going to have the Carries of Agnew conversation about coaching here in a second, but I really do think a significant problem with this team, especially a lot of these guys that have been around here for a while, is they were so reliant on the very drilled structure of where everything went that once they didn't have that instruction of like when ball here, go there, and they were asked to interpret it on their own, they didn't have the skills to do that.
Well, they weren't signed to play that style of soccer. They were signed to play a different, right? They were signed, maybe because of, in some respect, maybe due to their malleability, right? To their coachability. And when you decide that you're not going to take that sort of micromanaging hands-on approach to them and do something different, but some of them can't react. I don't completely buy into that theory because they're soccer players, but
I think it contributes to it. I'm not saying that it is the only thing. I think there are a lot of things going on here, but also this does go to the conversation about Carey. If you are going to try to take away from the sort of structured and guided and sort of automatism related philosophy towards how you progress the ball and what the movements are and the passes are that are very sort of automatic into more of an interpretive and like pull the defender forward and pass behind kind of stuff that you would want to do, or let your teammate off ball move into space and find that space. You also have to coach them into doing that.
Right.
And that doesn't seem to have happened.
Right. And
we're not seeing progress.
Right. And you're just talking about the attacking the side of the ball too, the on ball stuff. And the defensive or off ball stuff that doesn't look well coached either. Right. So neither one of those things are showing that that this is a well drilled.
The defensive stuff just looks like we have what we have and we'll just deal with it.
Yeah, I still don't. I still think that there is a level that they could reach that is higher, maybe marginally higher. But I'm just not sold on the complete package of coaching at this point. And
we'll get there in a second. Yeah,
and that's with all the caveats, right? Yeah.
We'll get there. We'll get there in a second. I do want to talk about. Speaking of defensive calamities, there was one more on the second goal. Or there was a series of them on the second goal, and this is one where Basong gets lost.
Yeah.
And doesn't seem to know who to press at the right time, and then leaves a bunch of space behind. And this team does this so much. And I'm not really. I don't think James does a great job on this play. I don't think he's terrible. I think he's a little late, but I also think he closes enough that the shot can't be taken to the far side of Pulskamp, and then somehow Pulskamp gets beat on the near post.
Yeah,
it's just bad, Just all around bad.
It's bad all around, and we've said that for multiple goals, especially these last 6 games, and it's a comedy of errors. It's just one after another, and you could set this team's defensive actions to the Benny Hill music, and it would be completely fitting. And yes, they do need better players, but yes, some of it all is also a lack of coaching and
and it's a worrying trend for Pulskamp, who I don't think I think he was sort of playing up to and continuing to progress positively through the middle of this season, and I think over the last 10 games, which are obviously against harder opponents where he's going to be facing harder situations, he has regressed and is starting to do the things that I disliked, which are overplaying situations, getting down into the hockey stance when he doesn't know what to do, right? Just getting big and doing the hockey stance thing, and
it's obvious he doesn't trust his defenders, right?
No, which is why he didn't cover the far post or the near post on that play.
Right.
James was closing. He needs to trust that he closes enough there, and if it gets by on the wide side, that's an Ian James problem, not a you problem, right?
Totally agree.
You cover the space between the defender and the post, and he doesn't. He starts to look, thinking the ball's going to go wide side, and that's why he gets beat on the near post. And I do agree with you that it's not trusting his defenders, but sometimes, like, when you're playing on a team that is this bad, and you are trying to ostensibly play for a contract, do the right thing first.
Yeah, you just got to do your job. Stop worrying about everybody else's job. You go out there, you focus on doing your job well. And if every one of those 11 players did that, things would be better. But
it's like, bro, this is your first year starting all season a goalkeeper. Don't try to be Tim Melia in his prime.
Right.
Just do the simple shit right.
Yep.
And I think that's the problem with him more than anything is he's like trying to do too much.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you're not good enough to do that.
Look, he's not alone. We have seen Jake Davis do that. We have seen Eric Tommy do that. We've seen Zoran Basong do that. I mean, just about everybody out there who acts like they're giving a shit has been sort of caught with their pants down trying to do too much this season. And yes, I'm gonna keep beating this drum. Yes, some of it is because the squad quality is so low, but also that is a coaching issue as well.
100%. Like, if they believe that it's okay to do that stuff, someone has told them it's okay,
right?
Or at least non-verbally have not made it clear that it's not okay.
Someone hasn't said, you go out there, you do your job, you worry about your job only. If you do that, you're going to keep getting starts. If you go off script, you are not going to get starts.
Right.
Like, that's just,
right.
That cut and dry.
Yeah. And that was really the correlation I was making between Zavagnin regime and Vermes regime is like we've pivoted so hard the other direction, it feels like.
Yeah.
That now there's not enough structure, there's not enough clarity, and also they don't have enough coaches.
Right.
To bang this message home.
I really feel for Kerry because, like, I think he's a good guy. I think we've discussed that he has an interesting soccer mind. He hasn't been put in a position to be successful. But by that same token, he hasn't put his team in a position to be successful. And so, I just think it's all just kind of a clusterfuck, honestly, and it needs to go away as soon as possible.
Yeah, all of it. Like, and we're gonna get there in just a second.
Uh-huh.
The last thing that I wanted to cover before we get into the KZ and roster conversation, this leads into it very well because it highlights. I've been out on this player for a minute. I was out on him even when we had this conversation 6 weeks ago. One, Logan and Denve. And you were not. You were not in agreement with me on this. You're like, I don't know about Logan. I think he's, he's got good rapport. I think at the time you're like, he's got good rapport with Shallowy. He's good at ball progression, blah, 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 blah. Well, you and I got to sit with each other for the second half where Logan and Denbei was directly in front of us for 45 minutes. And you might have a slightly new perspective on this player.
It's just interesting to watch Vancouver attack and like to see all this action down at the goal, and then at the end of the action to see Ndenby jogging past like in one side of your peripheral vision through the center and then out the other side. It's like, oh, thanks for joining the party, dude. Like, what the fuck? So yeah, I do get it. Just to be clear, like. My argument was, and still is to an extent, it's not an argument for Ndenbe specifically. It's just an argument that you have to think about where, and when you're constructing a squad, you have to think about where your ball progression comes from. It's not just defend in one box, attack in the other box. You have to be thinking about how you're going to get from one box to the other, and he's really good at that. But he is likely not good enough at that to justify not having his presence in the defensive box, since he is like a defender. And
he runs less than Leibold, dude. At
this point, he doesn't, and he might still be carrying injuries around. That seems to be an issue with him consistently. But
which is a whole separate reason,
right?
As to why would you invest a contract?
Exactly, we've talked about that as well. And so, yes, I am on team Ndenbe out officially.
Seriously, and you don't have to sit in front of where he is to see this. You just rewatch the second half of that game.
Yeah.
You don't even have to watch the first half. Rewatch the second half. The first half you can see on the first goal how badly he plays that and how unable he is to recover effectively. And again, maybe he is carrying an injury. I don't know, but again, like that's a separate conversation about.
No, it's a related conversation.
It is
right?
Certainly related. But then you just watch the whole second half and just track him. Don't watch anything else. Just track him.
A lot of walk in, a lot of getting stranded up top and leaving your defenders hanging out to dry. Yep.
He's 25. He's not 35. He's not Messi or something. You know what I mean? Like he's not. It's in a back four. Fullbacks have defensive responsibilities, man.
Yes, they do. Especially when your starting left center back is slower than Andre Ufantas. So,
yeah.
Is Montes slower than Fontes? Like
I don't know. I mean,
I would love to see a foot race between the two of them.
I don't think either one of them at top speed is like, oh my god, slow. I just think that neither one of them can accelerate worth a shit. Yeah. I will tell you, when I saw him step on that first goal, he got stuck up there like Fontes does.
Oh yeah, he did. He did absolutely.
That was some Fontes PTSD when he stepped, and that was like, yo, he's never recovering. There's no chance.
But I mean, frankly, that's a coaching thing too. The constant stepping into the midfield and not having the proper coverage.
I don't think he has the problem where he steps a lot. He stepped because there was literally no one else there, and if he doesn't press the ball, like it's a bigger problem.
Right, but that's I'm just pointing out that that's a consistent problem for Sporting Kansas City center backs, and I think that it is system related.
It is a little bit system related, but it's also related to the fact that the central midfielders are not in the right positions.
No, they're not. No.
So anyway, so let's move back to the Carey Zavagnin conversation. So you and I talked about this a little bit at length after the game. The problem that I get into with this, and I agree with you. I like Carey a lot as a person. I think he's a smart soccer dude. Like I think he understands the game really well. I think he sees the game really well. I don't think, to your point, that he was given a situation that was easy to navigate or easy to show his value with. both with the available roster as well as the available technical staff, and their inability to hire anyone for those positions because of the impending need to hire a chief soccer officer to actually fill all those roles. So, like, all those caveats in place. And I will also say this before we get into this conversation and the player conversation. You know, I've gone on a rant about this when we talked about Peter Vermees and, Peter Vermees out and all that kind of stuff. I find the whole concept of, like, begging for someone's firing to be a little bit sick. Like, I'm not asking for someone to be unemployed. That is not the point of this conversation. The point of this conversation is, this is a competitive, sports is competitive. There's a lot of turnover in sports. Players are going in and out. Coaches are going in and out as you continue to search to try to make yourself better and more competitive with the other teams in the league. And at some point, you have to look yourself in the mirror and go, this person, unfortunately, is not of the level to help us do that. And you have to make those decisions. And so from that perspective, that's the caveat to all of this. None of this is like personal bias against any of these guys. In fact, a lot of these guys I like personally. It's more about, what does this team need to do to turn this around? Because it's pretty fucking dark right now. And I think there's something to be said for the fact that as much as the roster needs a reset and an overhaul, that may be true in the coaching staff as well. And just to get the clean slate that this team needs to really reset, I think I said this in the past. This team needs a cultural enema. Like, it really does just need to, like, get all of this bad juju out of here. And unfortunately, that means it has to, that some people have to go with it for that to fully kind of get pushed away.
Yeah.
I mean, you have suggested that Carey needs to go to, USL or MLS Next Pro or whatever. I don't know if any of those things are necessarily true. I don't think he's going to get a shot to coach an MLS team on the basis of this, unless he's kept here in Kansas City. So maybe that is, as far as like his future coaching career, if he were to leave, like, he would probably need to look at doing something like that. But I think you've made some valid points in the past about the fact that he needs to hone his skills of managing a team. I think 15 years of being an assistant did not give him the clear understanding of the man management part of this to a full degree. I think he's done a really good job with the psychology of the man management stuff, of getting the guys like feeling good and going out and playing every week.
Well, sure, that's assistant coach stuff.
Yeah, it is.
Like, I mean,
being the buddy is kind 100%. Of what the assistant coach does.
Yep.
Holding people accountable, I'm not sure I'm seeing that as much. And there are ways to do it without being a dickhead, but you have to do it as a coach. Yeah. And if he is doing it, the players aren't responding to it.
Right.
So and I think you combine that with how much we've seen this year where they go into the game with a game plan that has to be torn up in half an hour. Like, they get to the water break and it's like everything's out the window and we're doing something different.
Right.
The number of times that's happened, the complete sort of lack of any type of specific identity for how they're playing, and the complete lack of any type of structure.
Yeah.
Like, what do they mean? How do you mean to score goals? How do you mean to prevent the other team from scoring? I don't think either one of us could say.
No. Who knows? Even if you're playing backup center backs or against center backs who aren't even center backs.
Did you see how quickly Eric Tommy had 3 guys on him as soon as he got on the ball?
Yeah. Because he's the only dangerous player.
Right, but they had a clear understanding of, as soon as the ball came up the left side, we're collapsing.
Yep.
Do not let him pass it to Joveljic. Shapi Suleimanov, make him cut onto it, make him stay on his right foot. Yeah. Like, there were very clear instructions of what they were doing, and everyone was on board. And I don't see that type of organization with this team, and that's a concern for someone you mean to hire as you're supposedly on an on-the-job interview to be can maintain as the head coach.
100%.
And so I'm coming more to your side of this fence the more I watch it and the more I sort of evaluate what the team looks like on the field week to week.
So what I like to think of or think about the two teams that I like to think about in this conversation are actually Vancouver and Nashville, who, neither one of the teams were as bad as Sporting Kansas City is now, but they were both teams that were kind of uninspiring and needed a freshening up, and new coaches came into both of those situations and really made a huge difference. I mean, Vanni Sartini, everybody loved him, but he was pretty vibesy, like like mostly vibesy,
It
and
was all vibes.
Sorensen is not that, right? Like Sorensen is detail oriented and precise, and those players have responded, and many of them look like completely different and better players under him than they did under Sartini, and they play differently. They play with a purpose and with with a swagger, and so does Nashville, and they didn't used to play that way, and they do now, and so the right coach, the right mindset, I think, can make a huge difference in a short amount of time. And when you couple that with the ability to turn over a roster significantly, I just, what I would hate to have happen is for the roster to be churned and we discover in a year that really actually, like, KZ wasn't the right dude, and then we're even further down the road in terms of what needs to happen. I think that it would be better off to just rip the Band-Aid off, just do the whole thing at once. Let the CSO do what the CSO is going to do. And because that's what you hired the dude for, right? You're hiring, ostensibly, paying, big professional money to a CSO to come in and run your organization. Let that person do and choose what the personnel that they want to choose with, and it's on them. And just pray to God that you make a better choice than St. Louis did.
Right. Well, I mean, St. Louis's choices though come from the CSO, right? You got to make a better choice as CSO than they did with Lutz Vandersteel.
No, that's what I was saying, right? Yeah. That was my point.
That guy. I mean, he does fit in St. Louis because, I mean, no one loves the smell of their own farts quite like people from St. Louis, and Lutz was right up that alley, man.
Yeah.
Like, that guy was really proud of himself, for very little reason. Like, he had very little reason to be as proud of himself as he was. Yeah, you would hope that they're making a better choice in that position than that. I think first thing when it comes to Jesper Sorensen, just quick aside, Joe Lowry did an interview with him and an article on Backheeled that is very, very good. I know not everybody has a subscription to Backheeled. I understand that we all have to, manage our own, what we decide to invest in from, different services and whatnot. But it is a very good article, and I would highly suggest reading it if you are able to. And really kind of goes into Sorensen's mentality and just kind of how he looks at things. And he, the one thing I will give away from the article is a quote that he had about how fascinated he is by MLS and kind of the way that you have to go about managing a team and, working with the salary cap and the different levels of players and how to maximize it. He had, you could tell that it was he like enjoyed the problem solving of it. He's a Danish guy. He was coaching at Brøndby before coming to MLS, but he also loved the fact that, unlike in Denmark or a lot of other European leagues where it's like three teams win the league every year, like he made a comment about, like, Thomas Müller came to our team. He played in Bayern Munich for 17 years and he won the title like 13 times.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you don't do that in MLS, right? So it's a completely different sort of problem to solve, and he's sort of fascinated by that, and also sees opportunity in that. And so yeah, just the very sort of insightful guy. But also in Nashville, BJ Callahan. When he kind of took over the interim coach title for Berhalter, we didn't really expect much of him. He kind of looks like they joked on the Scuff podcast like he looks like the defensive coordinator on the college football team, right?
He does.
Like, what do we got going on here? And he coached the team to a Nations League win, and then they got beat in the Gold Cup that year, but he was kind of on his way out at that point. And it was just like you were like, okay, Nashville hires him. Are they gonna really be something? And he's there for the second half of the season. You're like, okay, you see some stuff. And then this year, once they were able to spend an offseason and kind of get the roster set in a way to play the way he wanted, they've been fantastic this year. Like, really good soccer team. Like, really, really good. Like, I know we don't watch a whole lot of the Eastern Conference, but they are, by the underlying numbers, one of the best teams in the league.
Yeah.
I think their XGD is better than Philadelphia's, who's leading the Eastern Conference. So I think they're a little bit unlucky to be in the position that they are in the conference based on their goal differential and their XGD. They're just, some of the games haven't gone exactly the way they needed them to. And that happens. But they're very, I think your point is really valid. Like, a good coach in a market where you don't spend a ton of money on the roster can make a huge difference. And it's going to be on that CSO to figure out how to do that. And I think we're both saying that we don't think that Kerry Zavagnin is of that level.
No, I think it's obvious that he isn't. And could he be someday? Sure. But, he should get the opportunity to use trial and error to prove that with someone else's club, right? I
think the problem that we're in right now is this team. The fans of this team have run out of any type of patience.
Yeah.
For the way this team has been playing for the last 3 years. Like, this has to turn around. Mm-hmm. We can't go, okay, well, he didn't have a full shot, so let's give him a shot again with some different players.
Yeah.
We don't have time for that.
No. That's how you wind up, that's how you wind up with a shitty run club like DC United, where you're just
and that's also how you end up with Peter Vermees. That's how you end up with Peter Vermees until the beginning of the season.
Right. And that lack of foresight is how you go from, like, okay, we'll hire a coach, who seems to be the right option, who plays a 4-4-2, and then, oh, this isn't the right coach, you get rid of him, and new coach wants to play 3-man back line, and you're just toggling between coaching preferences instead of just trying to determine that ahead of time, and then investing in talent, and then finding a coach to coach that talent.
So don't be Manchester United, is what you're saying. Yeah.
It's not just them. Like, we've seen MLS clubs do that kind of shit too. It's like, I don't know. It just seems simple to me to not, like, toggle back and forth, and bring in one coach's players and then get rid of that coach and then have to, like, saddle another coach with a bunch of players who aren't, like, it just doesn't work in most cases. And
right.
And it's a seesaw back and forth. And once you start that seesaw, it's really tough to get out of it. So don't even start it. Just,
Mm-hmm. Well, that's where it comes from a top-down perspective. And
yep, 100%.
Conversations we've had in the past about building a game model from the top and having an identity in a way that you want to play, and that being led by the chief soccer officer, and it sort of flowing downhill into the coaching staff, the technical staff, the analytics staff, the recruiting, the scouting, as well as the roster, and the coach. Yep. Like, all of that has to kind of work together, and especially for a team that is not going to be spending at the top of the league when it comes to acquisitions, but doesn't necessarily need to. Like, Atlanta United was booted out of the playoffs before Sporting Kansas City was, and they spent $45 million on DPs. Like, that's not a guaranteed way to success either. You have to have a clear understanding and identity. Atlanta United is a clear example of a team who signed a lot of guys that make you go, yeah, those are good guys. Do they all work together?
Yeah.
And I think the answer is no.
Obviously.
And that goes to show, like, it can't just be Football Manager. This guy's scatter plot looks good. There's more to it than that.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the chief soccer officer. So we're starting to hear more rumors about chief soccer officer. Some of it has come from the fact that our friends across the state are also looking for a chief soccer officer, as Lutz has been unceremoniously sent packing, and they are much more want to leak information than Sporting Kansas City is. We know Sporting Kansas City is very tight-lipped about how they distribute information, when information comes out. Even those of us who have access to it know that we have to kind of keep it under our hat until it's, reportable. I'm not a reporter, so I'm not worried about reporting it, but I'm also not going to betray trust of people who provide information to me, because first of all, they won't provide it anymore, and secondly, that's just not cool. If they don't want it out there, I'm going to respect that. St. Louis, on the other hand, is much more willing to just say everything. They have diarrhea of the mouth. They love getting attention for literally anything they possibly can. And in this case, it is a couple candidates that they were looking at for the chief soccer officer. One of them, John Hackworth. So it's kind of funny. Hackworth, who was the interim head coach and has now been like the scouting director or technical director or something like that since then, apparently is on their list of chief soccer officer candidates. Then also Corey
How many
Ray.
times do they have to hurt you, John? It's okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Go somewhere else.
Seriously, dude. Blink twice if you need help. But seriously, Corey Ray was the one that was brought up. Corey Ray is someone we've discussed on this podcast because he recently parted ways, quote unquote, with CF Montreal. And we sort of suggested at the time that he was a potential candidate for Sporting Kansas City. It was reported that he was is a finalist for Sporting Kansas City by, I don't know what the name of this Ball Watchers or some dumb shit like that. Some sort of mouth breathing podcast for St. Louis got this information and tweeted it because they want Twitter clout or whatever you get on X these days for getting enough engagements on something. I didn't realize that saying that they were interviewing a chief soccer officer candidate that was on the finalist list for Sporting Kansas City would be that noteworthy, but maybe in their little world it is. I'm trying to figure out the best way for me to phrase this. I'm not going to refute what they're saying, and what they said aligns with things I've heard. That Ray was one of the candidates that Sporting was looking at. Where he is in that process and whatnot, I really can't say. I will say this: if it's coming out via a St. Louis podcast Twitter account that he was one of Sporting Kansas City's finalists, that should tell you a lot about where his candidacy currently sits.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that is what I would read into that situation if I were looking at it just why would a St. Louis podcast have the information that he was a finalist for Sporting Kansas City's job?
Right.
So take that for what you will. There was another candidate from Brentford. Lee Dykes was supposedly reported on some other weird website I'd never seen before, was someone that St. Louis was looking at. Brentford being a notoriously well-run club that uses analytics and really inventive scouting methods to sort of punch above their weight from an investment perspective, right? Find good quality players that maybe other teams have overlooked and get value from them, and then in a lot of cases sell them on for profit so they can reinvest in the club, and has done a really good job of that. Since getting promoted, they have continually improved that club and improved the roster of that club to maintain competitiveness within the Premier League, such that their coach has now been poached by Tottenham Hotspur, and a number of their players have been poached by other Premier League teams. So he, I will put it this way: St. Louis is not the only team that is scouting Brentford front office staff. So there are.
You mean other teams are looking at the most popular team in the world for their?
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
okay.
Yes. So I think the names coming out that are coming out are not super surprising to me. But it also it shows that there's a lot going on in this world right now.
Yeah.
And a lot, St. Louis, Kansas City. I mean, DC just hired a chief soccer officer.
They're good. We don't got to worry about them literally ever.
I don't know if they're good.
No.
I don't know if that's the way that I describe it. But they've hired someone. But there are a number of roles open, and so we're going to hear a lot of hot stove about this stuff. And I will say this: there are only so many quote unquote search firms for identifying candidates that exist that MLS teams use. So, yeah, there's going to be a lot of the same guys being parried around for different roles. When it comes to Kansas City,
so Drew, just a quick question for you: Is there a point, or at what point, would you start to get frustrated / annoyed that an announcement hasn't been made?
That is a very good way to phrase that question. Well, you're putting me under the gun a little bit here because honestly, the end of next week, I would be pretty frustrated if an announcement hasn't been made.
Yeah. I mean, because I kind of thought maybe, I don't know. I felt like September.
That would be
end of September.
That would be yeah. End of September. Yeah. I mean, there was a question posed on the Discord about this regarding is Sporting Kansas City doing this intentionally? Is there something to gain by them waiting to the end of the season to make an announcement, et cetera, et cetera? I don't get that feeling at all. This isn't a situation where they're holding on to information and waiting for the right time to release it or anything like that. They want to make this announcement. Mm-hmm. They want to make it as soon as they possibly can. They are progressing to the point where they can make that announcement. I can't speak to exactly what is holding that up at this point. Are they still negotiating between multiple candidates? Are they finalizing contracts with someone, work requirements, all those other things, especially if it's an overseas candidate? I really can't say. I really don't know. And so, but I will say that based on kind of what I've been able to gather, and most all of this is just a little bit of information here, a little bit of information there, a little bit of, piecing it all together. Mm-hmm. Yeah, if we've hit next weekend and they still haven't, and I want to say next weekend, like the end of next week, and they still haven't announced it, I'd be a little bit concerned, honestly.
Yeah.
So, take that for that. That's probably you asked the question in the right way, where I don't have to reveal too much, but you can read enough into what I said.
Okay, that's all I have. Thank you.
All right. So that should help provide some context to kind of where the process is. And I know I've been saying this for several weeks or since July, really. And I can tell you that a lot of this finalization was happening in July still.
Yeah.
And I think that, I understand the frustration with how long it seemed to take that. But to the point that you made earlier, I don't want to hire Lutz von der Steel. Okay? No. They have to hire someone sharper than that. And that is where I will give some optimism to the group. The names and the clubs that I'm hearing are people are like, oh, we're going there.
Yeah.
It's not like, huh? What? Mm-hmm. It's more like, oh, all right. Like I'm actually pretty warmed by what appears to be the group of finalists for this job. A lot of people, I think I said this on the Discord, a lot of people are pretty high on Corey Ray as an option. I think if they hired Corey Ray, a lot of us would be like, cool, like I'm good with that, right? And it appears like if you connect the dots with the release of information that it's probably not him. Mm-hmm. And so if that's the case, they found someone they like even more.
Yeah.
That's a positive for me, right? And so I look at that from an optimistic perspective, and there's at least one I have no idea who the candidate is, and usually with Sporting that means that's probably who they chose. Right. So
I just want confirmation.
If there's information on some that you're able to gather, but no information on one, that's probably the one, right?
I just want confirmation that Daniel Levy is not a candidate.
I mean, who can say?
You can say. Just say no.
The guy looks like what's his name from the Goonies?
Sloth.
Sloth. Doesn't he look like a short version of Sloth?
He kind of does.
He's got that pointy head.
He does.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, the bald head doesn't work for everybody, and that would be one of those people.
It really doesn't. All right, so let's move on to roster corner, because the CSO, when they get in role, is going to have a lot of choices to make. And you would expect, having gotten to this point of the interview process, has a fairly clear plan of, first of all, how to staff up the organization, as well as the, the game model and the ideas and how you want to play and etc. But also has an idea of this roster.
Okay, Drew.
I'm
interviewing you. You're going to be the new CSO for Sporting Kansas City. Who are you keeping? You have 17 players that can leave out of contract. Which, if any, are you going to keep?
Not many.
Okay.
Really the only players that I am very sure I want to keep are more of convenience and cap hit than they are of I believe in their quality so significantly.
Sure.
I think Basong, if he becomes the backup left back, is very useful on this team.
Yep.
Maybe if things go really bad in central midfield and you need to plug him in there, he can do it. But as a backup left back on the supplemental roster, I'm good with that. I'm good with Basong on this team. He also seems like a good glue guy. Like he's a good locker room guy, glue guy. Yeah. So valuable in that perspective. And I mean, we're talking about a guy who gets called up regularly for his national team. So he's not trash.
And he can make grapes.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, he's got that going for him too. So Basong, let's pick up his option, assuming that it's still supplemental roster or just above that, right? As far as cap hit's concerned. Jansen Miller. Yes. Exercise his option. He has done enough as a rookie that he deserves to come back and try to earn more minutes on this team. Yep. I don't know if he's an everyday starter in MLS right now. Maybe in the offseason, he gets an offseason, he bulks up some more, he works on his game some more, works on his game reading, he gets better, starts making better decisions next year as a second year guy in the league. I could see him evolving. I'd love to see him kind of go the Jackson Reagan path. I don't know if he's of that level, but I would love to see it if he was able to do that. And I think he's earned the right to do that as well. So Jansen Miller, Zoran Basong. Then we're getting into some areas where I'm just sort of like,
That was quick. That was two players.
I know.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying.
I'm with you. Yeah.
I think the only other one that really so then the next two are the ones where I'm like, I'm not sure, and the rest you can just let go as far as I'm concerned. So the next two ones I've kind of shrugging at are Pulskamp and Mason Toy.
Yeah.
Pulskamp, I think they should pick up his option regardless, because I think, you're going to need a full goalkeeper room.
Yeah.
I'm perfectly fine with him dumping Shayway, bringing Courtcamp up and making sure that he's available regularly, and then looking to sign a veteran goalkeeper that would push Pulskamp for minutes. They need some. I think part of the problem with Pulskamp's situation is he's the only guy who's ever played pro minutes in that goalkeeping room.
Yeah.
And so there's no one there that's kind of pushing him to reach the next level or showing him how to reach a level of a regular starter in MLS. So I think that they need to improve the goalkeeping room pretty significantly, and I think that there's an opportunity to do that. And then Toy, I think Toy for his cap hit is a very useful second striker, like backup striker, right? Joveljic, as much as I want him, as much as I love that he's playing like every minute, they need another option. I do think that's another ping against Zavagnin that it's taken him so long to figure out that Mason Toy is a useful player.
What the hell? And like it's a player that he refuses to start. And I think that it's just in favor of Joveljic, honestly. I think that that's the only thing.
Yeah, I mean, I think he started once in the 4-4-2 when they were doing that, but it's been very specific. I'm more wondering why he can't start at right wing over Shoppy. That's the question I have.
I mean, yeah, I totally agree. It would seem that it would be pretty easy to upgrade that position.
So yeah, I mean, those are the only four that I'm like. I mean, the first two I'm definitely on board with. So Miller and Basong, I think those are ones that you pick up. Basong more convenience and cap hit, but also value in the locker room. Miller 100%. He's got the vibes as well. Toy seems to be a good vibes guy in the locker room.
Yeah.
Hopefully he's okay. That concussion stuff didn't look good, but hopefully he seemed all right. He was actually pretty pissed that they took him out of the game. But I'm glad, and that's what the medical staff's supposed to do in that situation.
100%. When
the player's like, "Nah, I'm good," and they're like, "Well, no, you're not. Get in the locker room." So hopefully all that stuff works out. But him and Pulskamp are the only other ones that I'm like, "Oh my god, yeah." Like I would even consider bringing back.
So that means that all of the players who are out of contract, Denbe, Volater, Tommy, Joaquin, Brody, and Memo, all of them are gone.
Yeah. I could see that. So you're asking Drew
if I'm
CSO.
You. Yeah.
What I would do? Yes, all of them. The only one that probably anyone's going to be serious heartburn over is probably Eric Tommy.
Yeah.
And there is context to him regarding what type of contract he'd accept. Does he accept a 1+1 at a big discount?
Right.
Maybe. Even if he does, my thing with Tommy is stuff that we've discussed about with him for a long time.
Yeah.
He does not seem to fit on this team.
No, he's a good player, or he's not a bad player, but he is very limited in terms of his skill set.
He's a single-use type of player,
yep.
And I appreciate his professionalism and his leadership and all those things. But I was actually saying this to Chad Reynolds earlier this week when we were talking about it, that I think if this team is going to hit the reset button, he's part of that, right?
100%.
Like, he's part of the old way of doing things.
Yep.
And I think that, and Shallowy's still going to be around for the leadership about what it means to be at Sporting Kansas City.
Absolutely.
And I think from that perspective, I'm okay with letting Tommy go for getting the reset that the team needs. Because I think also Eric Tommy's going to turn 33 next year.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't think that that's necessary. And I think it allows them to be more aggressive with how they approach rebuilding some of the attacking positions. Then we got the two lone guys, Munoz, Montes. Montes, we discussed too much at the beginning of this podcast, is why we think. I mean, it's just like I don't see anything from this guy that's like, man, we got to have that guy at TAM.
No.
And similar with Munoz, there's a buy option. You have to believe that he's going to be over the max charge with his fee and everything and his salary.
Not worth it.
I just don't see it with either one of those guys.
No, totally agree.
And then the options, I mean, do we have to read these? Radia?
Yeah, you have to read them. Radia, hell no. Leibold, hell no. Shelton, bye.
We talked about Pulskamp, Toy, Basong, Miller, Sheway. Nah, not it. Afrifa.
Have fun at USL.
Yes. 100%. I mean, Afrifa got on in this game and was garbage.
He didn't do anything. Wow.
Yeah.
You're right.
So, So of the 17 players that can leave, I'm bringing back 2 and would probably bring back 2 more. But as I said on the Discord, I'm really not that upset if none of them return.
Who would you be really upset with? What 3 players would you be most upset with if they returned?
If they returned?
Yeah. What 3 players?
What's the ranking? What's the ranking of what the fuck are you doing?
Yes. I want to know. But I want you on record.
You know what my first one is. My first one is Joaquin. You know how much I am so out on the Joaquin Fernandez experience.
All right.
Part of it is because I played center back. I look at center backs a lot, and he just infuriates me. So Joaquin would be number 1 on that one.
Yes.
Radia would be number 2 on that one.
Yes.
It's probably Leibold just because of his comp for what he does.
Yes.
But I would also say Leibold at least has an elite positive. Right? Like, he does do one thing really well.
No.
But I don't want him coming back at $100 million a year. Absolutely not.
I would rather have Shelton than Leibold any day of the week.
I mean, actually, that's true. I actually agree with you on that.
Far, in terms of just roster construction, a far more useful player.
Which is saying something, because Kyrie, we discussed this on the Discord. Kyrie would get the most hate.
Oh, he would.
Retained.
He would.
And he is by far not the one that I would be the most worried about if they retained him. Now, he makes a lot of money, too, for what he provides to the team. Sure. You would expect if he were to return, it would also be on a big discount from what he's making now. But he also represents part of that reset that needs to happen.
What about Andrew Brody? If they decided to bring back Andrew Brody, what would your reaction be? What the fuck?
I would be really confused. Huh?
That's a gifable face.
What's the
that
meme
you got
with the
going?
lemur? The meme, the lemur.
Yeah, right.
Meme,
Yeah,
where it's like what? Huh?
Yeah. Huh? Yeah, that would be. It would be confounding for sure.
I would seriously question the sanity of the chief soccer officer that we hired if that was, unless there's like some analytics model they have that really maximizes Andrew Brody.
No, there's not. That analytics model should be fired into the sun if it exists. That's like if you were getting your roster construction info from Grok or something. Come on, we don't need that.
I would say let that go. I'm not even going to get into that.
I would say that my list probably pretty closely mirrors your list. I would just I think I would even put Toy off of the list, but I do recognize his value as just a it's important to have MLS veterans on teams. We've learned that over the years. And he qualifies, and then Pulskamp and Miller for sure. Basong, I can take or leave, but I think you bring up some good points about him. Everybody else, I'm completely out on. I'm not a sentimental person by nature, and especially not where players are concerned. And so, it's the business. Goodbye. Good luck. Goodbye.
Here's you're watching a box of peanuts.
I mean, really. Yeah.
I think that was the point that I also wanted to get across. If Drew is making the decisions at the CSO, this is what I would do.
Right.
I wouldn't be really that upset if all 17 went.
Yeah.
Like, that's what I was trying to get across earlier. It's like, am I going to be outraged if Jansen Miller, they don't keep him for whatever reason? No. I mean, I would be bummed, but I'm not going to be like outraged by it. Basong,
no, you wouldn't even be bummed. It'd be like, oh, that sucks, and then you move on. It's really not that deep.
Right.
Right.
And I mean, unfortunately, that's the nature of professional sports, right? You players move in and out. New regime comes in that wants to make wholesale changes, and they make those changes. And
I really want to see Jansen Miller make a full heel turn in the offseason. I want him to keep the bald head. I want him to grow like a gnarly biker goatee and maybe get
he's
some
got the mustache going.
And maybe get some neck tattoos. And I need him to look crusty as fuck. So that would make me so happy.
I don't think he's getting neck tattoo. That doesn't seem like Jansen's
No, it
vibe.
doesn't. It doesn't either. But it just it's funny to think about. So let's just think about.
I feel fairly confident he's coming back. Like I would be surprised to see. That would be extremely surprising to me. The rest of them, I really don't know, to be honest.
Yeah.
Like Basong could very easily go. Pulskamp probably returns just because they need They don't want to try to sign multiple goalkeepers in the offseason. So he probably returns. That's me just thinking about like the mechanics of this and the convenience of it.
Is there like a number, just a raw number in terms of player turnover that like is 16 players? Is that too much? Do you think? Is that
Only if you hire Caleb Porter to decide who those replacements are.
okay? Fair. That's fair.
I don't know. It really depends on how in depth the plan is of the CSO to make changes here. Like I said, this team so desperately needs like almost a blank sheet of paper.
Yeah.
I mean, look. Now, San Diego is a very specific example with the whole Right to Dream stuff and their partnership with Nordstrand and just how they already have gone about player ID and philosophy and all of that makes them a little bit special when it comes to how you're doing this. But you're looking at a borderline expansion team that already signed its first two DPs.
Right.
Right? That's what you're looking at with Sporting. And so the question is, do you have the right understanding, recruitment model, and whatnot to be able to fill out the rest of that roster?
Yeah.
Because, I don't think, even if you dump all 17 or 16 or 15 or whatever it is, however many, I think it's probably going to be more in the 13 range. 12 to 13 players are going to be moving on. If you do that, you're kind of in the place where a lot of expansion teams are in October the year before they start, which is trying to fill out, 50. I mean, they have a couple spots open on the roster too, so they're talking, 15 players that you've got to sign before January. So it's really, does the chief soccer officer have a recruitment and an identification model to be able to build that roster out that quickly? And also, have they identified who's going to be free agents and MLS and all of those kinds of things? And you have to imagine that is a significant part of the interview process, especially the final interview process.
Yeah. Yeah. And when you layer that on top of, the possibility of needing a coach and coaching staff and scouting staff, I mean, it's a lot that has to happen in a pretty short amount of time.
Right. And you would expect that candidate has already identified some significant candidates they would want to bring in for some of those roles. Yeah. Or to potentially a right hand that would come in with them,
or maybe a pair of co-CSOs. That's been proposed on the Discord.
I can confirm that Cody and I are not finalists.
I can tell you though, I am interested because I can't speak for Drew, but I'm a teacher, and it would take a very minimal pay upgrade for me to be on board. So,
I will tell you that in professional sports, most jobs don't pay that much. Outside of the players and the head coach,
they pay more than teaching.
They do. That is true. That is a fact.
That is a low bar.
It's a very low bar. But I think that, I mean, I have it on fairly good authority that I know the salary cap and how it works much better than several CSOs in MLS.
Yeah, that would not surprise me at all. The Peter principle is fully in play here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That does not mean I'm qualified to be a chief soccer officer. That just means that they've hired some bad chief soccer officers in the league.
But you're not qualified.
Exactly. Yeah, maybe so. All right, let's move on to potpourri. Just like your favorite Jeopardy category, we got a few topics around the MLS soccer sphere. I sort of alluded to this earlier. MLS dropped the latest roster profile update. Not anything of significant note in here for Sporting Kansas City, other than the fact that, as I said, Alan Montes is listed as a TAM player. We've got certain players that have exited the team since the last release that are no longer on this roster list. And because they brought in Montez, that got them up over 18 senior roster spots. They moved Zoran Basong down to the supplemental roster. He was always eligible to be there. They just hadn't. They needed to keep him on the senior roster because they needed to have 18 on the senior roster. So those are only the really notable things for Sporting Kansas City in this. There's no GAM listed in this. They said it was going to be this week that they would update it with available GAM. I don't know how much of a difference it makes. I don't think they spent a ton to bring on Montez. I hope they didn't. But with the knowledge that the majority that the even the game they got from the Willie Agata trade is stuff they can carry over to next year. I'm sure that they're trying to maximize as much of that as possible for next year's roster building exercise. The Kansas City Current
are good.
They're very good. They clinched the Shield. They haven't given up a goal in like over 1,000 minutes. It's kind of absurd.
It is super absurd.
We didn't get to watch much of this game. I saw some of the highlights and I've seen some of the analysis of it. We knew Seattle wasn't going to play soccer. We knew what Laura Harvey was going to do. But it was wild to pull up the foot mob of it at halftime as the Sporting game's about to start and Seattle had taken 0 shots.
Yeah.
And I looked at it. It was like they didn't take their first shot of the game until like the 67th minute.
Were you like, holy shit, are the Current playing Sporting Kansas City?
Yeah, exactly.
What's going on?
Might be a similar result. Yeah, it was wild. So yeah, all the accolades are well deserved for this Kansas City Current team. Vlaco has done an outstanding job coaching this team, making them much more defensively solid than they've been in the past.
Yeah.
While still obviously dangerous from a goal scoring perspective. They're not hanging 5 on teams anymore, but I think a lot of that is to do with their opponents just will not open up against them because they know what will happen if
they're terrified.
Yeah. And so they're just winning a bunch of games 2-0, 1-0, or against the Spirit a 0-0 draw because no team will open up against them. And as a result, that also improves their defense. They don't have to defend a whole lot of difficult shots because their opponents never really commit numbers forward.
Yeah.
And it's just, I'm kind of running out of superlatives for them at this point. They're on a points per game streak at this point to like equal like Manchester City's 100-point season in the Premier League. Like that's kind of what they're doing right now. So,
well, just read, the subs that they subbed in, for that game. Mace, Ball, Labonta, Bia, and Hopkins. Those are the subs, man.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah. Yeah. And they didn't even have Michelle Cooper. Yep. And Mace came in and then came off. It looked like she did something to her foot, was in a boot during the celebrations for the Shield. But again, they've got Gabby Robinson back. They've got Elizabeth Ball back. So it's sort of like they can absorb that if Mace is out for a little while. Like the roster's just built so well, man.
It is.
Like that's the big part of it is that they've just built such a good quality roster and then made it better, by trading for Ali Settner.
Yep.
They've got like just so much quality depth. It is literally the antithesis of Sporting Kansas City.
Yes. It's just funny to think about, honestly.
All you can do is chuckle about it. I mean, it is the polar opposite.
Yeah.
From a roster building, from an identity perspective, all of it. They are at exactly the level we would want Sporting Kansas City to try to operate at. And it's also clear to see how far Sporting is from getting to that place. So additionally, Temwa somehow she finishes 17th in the Ballon d'Or. I don't even care. The Ballon d'Or is stupid. It is. If you do not play in Spain or France,
yep.
Just good luck trying to win that award. So anyway, they what's frustrating is like obviously they get all of the top 10. All the players in the top 10 of the Ballon d'Or played for the same 3 teams. It was Barcelona, Arsenal, Chelsea.
Yeah.
Right? And they give it to Aitana Bomadi, who is a fantastic player, but is like the 3rd best player on Barcelona.
Yeah.
Anyway. All right. Moving on. Also making the news.
I'm not really here for Ballon d'Or talk. Don't really care.
Yeah, it's sort of irrelevant. Yeah. So my guy, Heung Min, appears to be okay at soccer. Seems to have this thing figured out.
He's
Didn't
amazing.
need much adaptation time. All the chatter about, are he and Denise Bawanga gonna figure it out? Fuck out of here, man. Come on. Oh, is he gonna be fit? Is Sonny gonna be fit and ready to play? Fuck out of here. Jesus Christ. I do admit that I have probably, of anyone, publicly giving an opinion on this situation, have watched more Son Heung-min than probably all of those people combined by a factor of 10, right? So I get that my assessment of him, and also I will also admit my own bias in it. Like, Sonny's one of my favorite players ever, but also, like, this was the most obvious thing to happen possible.
Yeah.
Dennis Bawanga has another lethal attacker running with him downhill. It was just obviously going to end like this.
Yeah, it's like people forgot that that Sonny played next to Harry Kane, for all those years, and
for a decade,
and they had such a great relationship, right? Like, and as you mentioned this weekend, that he plays center forward for his national team, who are
and played it the whole season after Kane left.
That is
when
true.
Kane went
too.
to Bayern, he
that
played center
true.
forward for Tottenham that whole season.
That is true. So yeah.
Anyway, they look really, really good now. And also LAFC, by the underlying numbers, I know they had a bunch of games in hand because of Leagues Cup, or not Leagues Cup, because of Club World Cup. And so they're sort of catching up on some of those as well. But they're not as high in the standings as you would have thought they'd be. Their underlyings are super good. Like, they have, their XGD is second in the league to Vancouver. So
well, they're good enough defensively that they're a terrifying team to face in playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, that went down a little bit when Aaron Long got hurt, but then they went and signed another center back in the summer window and seem to be fine now. So, that is not a team I'd want to see right now. Thankfully, St. Louis City gets to see them this weekend. But I think that they're just absolutely flying right now, and they're going to be a really difficult team to play. They're run in. It's St. Louis, Atlanta, Toronto, Austin, Colorado.
They're gonna be humming by the time they hit the playoffs, man.
Yeah, I mean, that could be 15 more points. They could hit 65 before the end of the season.
Yeah.
So, they're a good team, and a team worth watching for sure.
The question is,
as you're trying to find who you want to watch now that sporting is like out for sure. They're definitely my dark horse to win the Western Conference,
and they're more entertaining now that they have Son playing with them too.
Right.
They don't play against the ball,
but they have other good players that I like. They have Igor Jesus.
Sure.
They have David Martinez, who has not had the season that I would thought he would have this year. But he's also a young player still. Like, he's still, 20? Is he 20 now, or 19 still? I mean, he's still quite young. But I'm they have a fun team for sure. He's 19 still. Martinez is, so I think he'll be fine.
He'll be all right.
All right. So Premier League mornings showed up at Power and Light. You attempted to go down there.
Yeah, I did, and I stood in line for the entire first half of the Liverpool game, and then I dipped after that. But I don't know. Since I've gotten older, don't have the FOMO that I once had. I never had a lot of it, but I definitely don't have enough FOMO to wait and stand in line for that. So, but that said, like, it was nice to see it on the television, and it looked like it was really a good time and looked well attended. They did seem to be really throttling the very closely controlling the amount of people that they let in there. It was not like a free for all at all, like some events seem to have been that I've been to down there. But those have been, to be fair, I haven't been to an event down there in probably since before the pandemic. And so things might have changed significantly since then. But I don't no regrets. I didn't, you said no.
No, I mean, I was there for the U.S. men's national team
Yeah.
game against England in the World Cup, and you couldn't even get to a bathroom. It was so packed. So,
And it didn't even in the crowd shots on the television. It did not look that packed. And I'm telling you that there were hundreds of people waiting in line during that Liverpool game that looked so crowded on the television. And so, yeah, I was not crazy about that aspect of it, but I get it. It's a brand, and they have to very sort of, closely protect their brand and blah, 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 blah. And
I mean, there's a security aspect to it too.
Absolutely.
Sure. And you could see they had stand-up set up like in McFadden's and whatnot. They had what's her name that was doing by the time I got home and I was not able to see any, I was watching some of it on, I got stuck in Dallas. Those of you in the Discord know I got stuck in Dallas. My flight got canceled on Friday night. So I was watching it in the airport, on Saturday, and they had whoever runs the bar near Turfmoor and Burnley, they had her there sort of making a Burnley bar out of McFadden's or whatever. Right. So they were doing those kinds of things. And I think if you're going to set up all those stand-ups and whatnot throughout the little power and light area, you can't have it full of hundreds of people, right? You've got to, it's a television show first and foremost. And so they managed it like one.
And like I said, that's fine. It was probably a little bit naive on my part. I was a little grouchy at the time, but I got to watch my team and I got to watch my city on the screen, and so at the end of the day, it's fine. I'm not holding a grudge. I'm still proud that Kansas City represented well, and we still got to host, and St. Louis hasn't. So really, that's what matters. Let's be honest.
Yes, it certainly does, and I think that it did show well, and I think that's the most important part.
100%.
Right? When you're talking about sort of the marketing part of it and showing Kansas City as a soccer city and its viability for the World Cup and all those kinds of things, it showed well on television. Yeah. There have been many times when they've cut to that shot on the stage at Power and Light, and it looks like there's a billion people there. And once you get back past that sort of living room area, it's pretty light back behind there, back towards Johnny's and whatnot. It's not quite as crazy. So I will tell you, for that U.S. men's national team game, it was insane. There was nowhere to be, and if you almost didn't want to drink, because if you had to go to the bathroom, you're standing in line for 45 minutes.
Absolutely, yeah. I've been to soccer games down there that were like that. So, and it's probably, I don't know. I mean, I would imagine that's what more along the lines of what it's going to be like during the World Cup. So, get ready, Casey.
Yeah, I think they're trying to do a good job of offering multiple places to do it.
I mean, they should. That's
the only one.
That is part of the draw, or the benefit of having the expanded streetcar route, is that at this point you can go from the riverfront all the way to the plaza, and you can party anywhere along that area. You can watch the game anywhere along that area. And so that
and there's that whole entertainment district that the Longs are building next to the current stadium that I think will be done. So there's I think they have plans for multiple activation areas where you can go. They'll have it displayed on a big screen or something like that. So I think there will be options for sure when it comes.
The Longs are just going to be like river barons, aren't they? They're just gonna have their whole.
This was a real estate play.
No, I know.
They know what they're doing.
They do. They have their whole little fiefdom set up there, and that's fine. It's good. It's good that people are investing in the riverfront.
For sure. I mean, I know the mayor is pretty proud of it. He was even posting stuff on his Instagram earlier this week about just pictures of what the riverfront looked like 10 years ago to now. And it's a pretty big,
and it should be, and frankly, it's an incentive. It's an incentive also to keep the river cleaner. than it has been, and because nobody wants to visit a river that smells like shit because everybody's dumping their shit in there, and so
Right.
it's in some ways it can be a win-win.
Right. I mean, I think that's how the mayor phrased it, is like an area that used to be a landfill is now a vibrant sort of area that people want to be. So I think that all of that is positive. All right, one thing to look for. Sporting Kansas City heads to Los Angeles for the Wooden Spoon 6-pointer. I mean, if they win this game, they're guaranteed not to get the spoon.
Okay.
I'm just saying, there is something to play for.
There is something to play for. Yeah.
It does not. I mean, the way that Shallowy described his injury after the Austin, and he played the rest of that game, which was kind of weird. Was that he heard something pop?
That's not good.
And then they were like out. I find it hard to believe that he is going to be available the rest of this season.
Agree. And he shouldn't be, if there's any question, honestly. I mean,
right. There's no point in testing right. and extending him. So from a available player perspective, I do have concerns. It looks like Manu is at least getting to some level of fitness. He played 25 minutes, but if he's available for more than a half, I'd be surprised.
Yeah.
So it's probably going to be more of what we saw.
Yeah, you would think. I mean, who knows what they're going to do with the center back pairing? Whatever. Run the same thing out. It doesn't it really doesn't matter at this point. Do I want to win the spoon? No. Do I think that Sporting Kansas City is going to win the spoon? No, because Montreal and DC exist, right? Yeah. So I'm not that worried about it either way.
I more just don't want to finish behind St. Louis, but I think that ship might have sailed.
I totally agree. But at the same time, there's a much better chance for Sporting to beat LA Galaxy than there is for St. Louis to beat LAFC.
For sure.
There's that. Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I do have questions about whether, you have to keep doing the same shit you've been doing when you've already been eliminated from the playoffs. Is now the time that he'll throw out a back three? I don't know. I really don't know.
Is now the time that Shapi Suleimanov doesn't get to start for some random reason?
Well, if they go to a back three and Kyrie plays wing back, then you could pull Shapi off the field.
Yeah. Yeah. I would be super surprised if that happened. Because the problem is you'd have to play like Eric Tommy or somebody as the left wing back, and he will not stay wide. So it was likely going to be a 4-2-3-1 or a 4-4-2
or a 4-4-2. Yeah, 4-4-2 makes more sense. Honestly.
It does, and I
4-4-1-1 with Munoz underneath that seems to be the most likely option, especially if Doy's got a concussion.
Agree.
So I mean, getting the injuries right now is not ideal for attempting to win a game, but I think to your point, there are enough shitty teams in the East that exist that it may not be, a big deal either way.
Yeah, and at this point, given Basong's last game, I mean, there's no reason to put him out there. You might as well put Davis and Bartlett out there, and just
and put Montez back out there and try to actually hit corner kicks to him.
Sure, absolutely.
I mean, the thing is, like,
you have nothing to lose.
I said this to you during the game. What is Basong providing you over Jacob Bartlett at this point that is offset by the fact that Bartlett has the long throw, the long set piece, and the corner kick in his bag?
Yeah. A little bit more ball winning, a little bit more bite, but that's about it.
But I mean, we're talking the small amount. Like, we're not talking like something
not a game changing amount. That's for sure. But in the midfield, those things are amplified, right? So even a little amount makes a bigger difference. But I think your point is right. There's no reason not to start Bartlett at this point.
Let him out there and let him ping some freaking set pieces in. He's the only guy on the team that does it with any regularity. Davis and Tommy were fucking trash at that.
Bad, super bad
against Vancouver.
Yes.
Also, both of them just love the floated back post corner.
That's a coaching thing, man. They are being coached to do that, and I swear to God, If I was CSO, that's the first thing I would say is if I ever fucking see that again, you're fired on the spot. I will go down and coach the goddamn team myself. I don't want to see another one of those floated crosses ever. Ever.
They're so unlikely to do anything good. I just don't understand.
That's the thing. Like, do these people even watch soccer? Like, does that ever work? And the answer is no. It never, ever works. It never works. So do you keep doing it? It's pointless.
Yeah. So, yay.
Yay.
Also,
let's do it.
Gabriel Peck's going to be running up Sporting's defensive left side.
Which means we are due for a Leibold start. Let's go.
I mean, Leibold as left wing back, I wouldn't hate so much.
I would hate it.
I mean, I don't know. I hate everything that this team does right now. So,
Drew, stop trying to make wing back a thing. I don't think it's going to happen.
It's not going to be. Yeah,
I wish that it would. I'd be okay with it, but
it's not going to be a thing.
It doesn't seem like it.
Definitely not going to be a thing. I'll keep wishing for it, but it's the whole wishing one hand and shit in the other situation. So,
yeah.
On that note, I'm Drew. He's Cody. We will talk to y'all next week.
Go Sporting.